I'd like to introduce Pam from the United States, who takes LDN for multiple sclerosis. Thanks for joining me, Pam.
You're welcome.
Could you tell me when you first started to notice your MS symptoms?
When I was 23, approximately 23 or 24, I am now 55.
Mm-hmm. And what did you notice at that time?
Bladder, loss of blood, bladder control.
Mm-hmm. Was that all?
And dizziness.
Okay.
Dizziness, meaning vertigo, room spinning around.
Mm-hmm. And what did your doctor say? Did they offer you any medication at that time?
I didn't go to a doctor until a couple of years later. I didn't do anything for that. I thought it was stress. So then a few years later, I started to get numbness in my left arm, and that's when I went to a doctor, and a neurologist diagnosed me.
Okay.
When I was 28 then.
Mm-hmm. And by that time, did you have any other symptoms?
No other symptoms except burning symptoms in my various parts of my body, like my legs or my arms, a few little burning episodes. It just felt like I was in the sun or something,
mm-hmm.
and they went away quickly.
Okay. So how did you hear about LDN? How many years later was that?
Oh, this was just recently, like last year, when I was 54.
Okay.
So I went 30 years, almost 30 years, and I never heard of it. And then I started getting on the MS sites on Facebook, and that's when I started thinking, well, maybe I better try that. Now, mind you, I am able to walk, and I'm able to do everything pretty much. I only have a few little symptoms that are not really noticeable. You wouldn't know it. In other words, nobody would know it except
mm-hmm.
I do.
Mm-hmm.
And
so,
when I started seeing it on Facebook, that's when I became interested.
Okay. So how would you have rated your quality of life before LDN on a score of 1 to 10, 10 being the best?
Right. I would say 6.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say now?
I would say now 9.
Well, that's a big improvement, isn't it?
Right, it is.
When you heard about LDN, how did you go about getting a prescription?
First, I went to my neurologist, who said, no, they don't prescribe that, and didn't even hear of it. So I'm not about to educate her on it. So then I went to a psychiatrist, and that is he treats me for depression and prescribes antidepressant, and that was another thing that I wanted help with, and I don't need that any longer. I'm sorry for the dog barking in the background.
Okay.
But I don't need it anymore after, I think it's the LDN. But anyway, he prescribed it to me because he had heard of it, and since then, I've been taking it since last October, and I don't need that any longer. The prescription for my antidepressant.
Wow! So 7 months on LDN has really helped with your depression.
Yes, it has.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that it helps with the fatigue. That's the main symptom I have is fatigue now. And I don't have pain or anything like that, but it's fatigue is the worst. And since I've been in Florida, I attribute that mainly to being with my sister a lot. So we do a lot of things. And when I was at home, I didn't do anything. So it was I could attribute it to a lot of things, but I'm more active now.
Okay.
In the last 7 months, I'd say.
Well, that's good. And do you have any symptoms at all now?
Fatigue. That's the only
just
symptom.
Just fatigue. Fantastic.
Right.
Mhm. And when you first started, did you notice any negative side effects?
Initially, very beginning, yes, I did. But it wasn't bad. I knew what it was going to be because of others that had described it. It was the dreams. But I don't care about that, and I knew what it was. And it just was a few days, actually, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Then it stopped.
What would you say to other people who've got MS who are contemplating trying LDN?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you asked.
What would you say to other people who are thinking of trying LDN?
Oh, I would say by all means. I by all means do it, and I tell people on Facebook a lot what my symptoms were, and I don't have the extent of symptoms that a lot of people do with MS on Facebook that they describe, but the symptoms that I have, I do tell people that since I was taking LDN, I wouldn't go off of it. I did go off of Capoxane, and because that's the first time I ever tried it was like last year. In my almost 30 years of MS, I never tried one of the drugs until last year, and I hated the side effects of it, and I prefer LDN.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you
for the MS drug.
Thank you very much for sharing your experience with us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.